Welcome to Mass Audubon's 128th annual meeting. I'm Beth Cressley Goldstein, Chair of the Board of Directors, and I'm pleased to welcome you here and so glad to see so many of you here with us at GBH, as well as roughly 120 folks that are joining us via Zoom online, including 2 watch parties at our sanctuaries, one on the Cape at Long Pasture and one at Acadia in the central western part of the state. The video clearly shows our theme for tonight, Power of People, the power of people. And really, that's all of us in this room and those on Zoom and many, many more who are not here with us tonight, but who are committed to our work. Mass Audubon stands tall as one of the leading state conservation organizations across the nation. Together, we steward and protect 41,000 acres of land across the state. This year, we welcomed 500,000 visitors to our wildlife sanctuaries. We also provided educational program, nature-based educational program, to about 150,000 adults and young people. We are 160,000 members strong, and we continue to have a great deal of respect and folks who know us at the state and local government level. Together, all these things and more make us a real model for what a statewide conservation organization should be at the national level. And we are happy through innovation and other things to rise to really complete that model and show what the possibilities are. Thank you for being here and being a part of it. This is the beginning of our 4th year of implementing our bold action agenda. I know most of you are familiar with the action agenda. The 3 original key goals focus on resilient landscapes, providing access to nature for all people in the Commonwealth, and mobilizing to fight climate change. I won't go into a lot of details tonight here. David O'Neill, our president, will share our progress this year, but I'll simply say that I'm so proud of the way that we are rising to meet the challenges of our time that are affecting nature. It's really exciting, and we will keep at it long and hard. Last year, our theme for this meeting, the annual meeting, was about the power of nature. We talked a bit about how nature inspires us. We talked about how it supports our health, our mental health, and our well-being. And importantly, we talked about how it's a critical lever in our ability to mitigate climate change and also adapt to climate change. And we also acknowledged last year that nature can't do it all on its own, that they need us. Nature needs us. And really that's what was the genesis for the theme tonight, Power of the People. Our hope tonight is twofold. We want to celebrate all the people, yourselves among them, who work on behalf of nature, to support nature with Mass Audubon and otherwise. But we also want to hope to inspire action for the future. We're not done here, and we need everybody, putting a shoulder into it more as we look forward. When you step back and think about the number of people that are involved with Mass Audubon across the state, it's pretty staggering, especially when you factor in our partners, our supporters, and the wide range of people we interact with day to day. At a high level, I want to call out some of those groups just for you to think about. First, anyone and everyone who are supporters of the organization and generously give to fuel the work that we are doing and to drive us forward. I'd particularly call out our partners at MathWorks and also partners at State Street. But really everyone gives to this part of the organization, and it's really critical. We also have, as I mentioned, really great colleagues and partners at all aspects of state and local government within the Commonwealth. You'll hear from one of them later tonight, and that will be a terrific part of our agenda. We have many, many land trust partners, land trusts like ourselves, like Metacomet and Kestrel, who we're working together with to protect the most ecologically important lands in the Commonwealth. We also have more community-based partners, and we'll hear a little bit about Speak for the Trees, who are working in Boston to really think about fighting climate change and the urban heat effect. And we have many other community partners, but that's one we'll focus on tonight a bit. As well, I think it's really important to think about our educators, not just the Mass Audubon educators who are key to our work, but also our K-12 schools, our universities and college, and all those who are working with people to educate them about nature and hopefully inspire them to take action as we do. There's a couple people within this that I'd like to acknowledge tonight. As you know, we have our annual Conservation Teachers of the Year Award. Hopefully you will have seen out in the reception area, there's some great boards that explain the work of these educators, but I just wanted to give them a shout out right now. First, we have Alice McCabe from Boston Teachers Union Pilot School. I think you might be here, Alice. Give a wave if you are. All right. Woohoo! Hard for me to see. I think we also have Lisa Casparello and possibly on Zoom, Jeff Maletta from Mill Pond School in Westboro. All right. And perhaps not with us tonight are Alex Hershey from Somerville Public Schools and Regina Galt from the Ezra Baker Innovation School in West Dennis. Please make sure to take a look at the boards, and thank you all for the innovative work that you're doing. A list like this wouldn't be complete if I didn't also mention the dedication, hard work, and passion that our Mass Audubon staff bring to the work every single day. Many of them are here with us tonight, and I encourage you to seek them out and talk to them and learn about the work that they're doing. But most importantly, within this landscape of folks that are the power to support nature, the people, I want to talk about the volunteers. Many of you fall into this category, and I hope many more of you will if you're inspired tonight. A couple of key statistics. Last year, we had 6,400 unique individuals volunteer with Mass Audubon. Together, you and they gave 150,000 hours of work towards our mission. What that adds up to is about 50 additional full-time staff, more than that actually. So it's impressive, right? That's a lot of people and a lot of great work going on in the organization. I'd like to just give a couple of shout outs and a few examples, because I think you can hear that number and say, what the heck are all those people doing? But really they're working across the range of work that we do as an organization. And I have a couple folks to share with you. First, in the grouping of working outdoors, stewarding land, and protecting wildlife, I wanted to give a shout out to Rick Walter and Stan Pasterzak. Sorry if I got the names wrong, but I'm trying my best. But Rick and Stan work at the Long Pasture Sanctuary on the Cape, and they're very active with our property stewardship group. They're clearing brush, they're maintaining trails, managing invasives, and doing a whole lot of the outdoor work that keeps the properties looking great and really making them great habitats for nature. So thanks to them. Also in that area of the state, we have Tim O'Brien and Kim Novina. Tim and Kim are very involved in tracking, monitoring, and protecting our population of box turtles on the Cape. And yes, and as part of their work, they're really helping to learn more about these creatures, and especially, I'm not going to say this right, but in terms thinking about their hibernation. There's a special word, if anyone knows it. I think it's called brumation. Is that right? So, but they're really building the scientific knowledge that we have about their habits. The second broad category is connecting people in nature and building community. This is actually where I got my start in many respects with Mass Audubon. I want to shout out to Jennifer James and Jackie McDowell, who are at the Arcadia Wildlife Sanctuary. And they both are active in volunteering with our nature preschools and also with our school programs, connecting kids to nature. One of them also works with the art house at Arcadia to connect people through art to nature. And one of them is also very active in welcoming visitors to our wildlife sanctuaries. So thank you. Another example here in the Metro West area is Dan Fournier and Leslie Bostrom. They are avid birders, and they actively work as part of many of our birding adventures. Maybe some of you have bumped into them in the field, but they are very good, as I understand it, at helping people to learn how to use the birding equipment, at helping folks to spot birds, identify them, and really learn about each type of bird and why it's important to the ecosystem that they are a part of. Last, I have Marty Wall. And Marty is from, actually not last, second to last. I have Marty Wall. Marty is from the western part of the state, and he was active in what I consider more of a community building way. And he raised a fund of money for the Action Agenda in order to honor a beloved preschool teacher, Pat McDonough. And really, I think he really brought people together to honor Pat and to also support the organization. The last area, and you'll hear some more about this later, is advocating on behalf of nature. And the person who I think is somewhere over here is Carol Disney. Can you raise your hand, Carol? All right. Carol, I understand that you are one of our inaugural members of our Climate and Nature Champions, and I'm told that you have helped to recruit many others to the cause. And I think someone said you are ready for action on just about anything, including having a great relationship with your state representatives, that you'll attend public meetings, lobby days, write public comments, and just are very active in the space of advocating on behalf of nature. So I hope I've gotten that right. You can correct me later, but thank you. Tonight there'll be more stories to come. And as you listen to these stories, I really encourage you to think about your own role, but not just your role as an individual volunteer and how you can power the organization that way, but also the way that we come together collectively to influence people to support nature. We can have a really exponential effect when we bring our voices together and work together, and each of us can play a role in that. So be thinking about that as we move forward. Where am I? Goodness, I think that's it for my remarks, and now we're going to transition into the business meeting. We start with the business meeting, that's standard. Then we will have another great video that starts to get more into the power of people. We'll have David O'Neill, our president, come up and share a number of great highlights from the year ahead, and then he will introduce one of our past environmental fellows and now current staff member who come and share some reflections on their work and on our environmental fellows program. And many of them are sitting right down here. That's why I'm looking here. And then David will pivot to a conversation with State Rep Joan Mesquina, who will help us think about legislation around climate change and nature, and also think about our own roles in supporting that. So with that, I will say let's go, and we'll start the business meeting, which means I have to find some different notes. Okay, now I would like to formally call to order the 28th annual meeting of Mass Audubon. The first order of business is to approve the minutes for the 2023 annual meeting. For those of you here in person and those attending virtually, the minutes were shared with you in the information you received via email. I hope some of you have reviewed them, and I'm hoping there's a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Thank you. Any second? Thank you very much. Unless there are questions, I'm going to bring this to a vote. All those present tonight can please raise your paddle, and for those attending virtually, you can cast your vote using the poll. Are there any ayes? I see many. Are there any nays? Okay, I think my trusty companion over here helps me to know what you folks on Zoom have to say. The ayes have it, so thank you. At this time, I would like to introduce my board colleague, Rob Ball, who is the treasurer of Mass Audubon and the chair of our Administration and Finance Committee, and he will share the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Beth, and thank you everyone for being with us this evening. This is a good year to deliver the treasurer's report. It's been a really good year for Mass Audubon. You're going to hear tonight about some amazing achievements at Mass Audubon and the impact we're having across the Commonwealth. This has been fueled by a fundraising effort that's in full swing and delivering impressive results. In fiscal year 24, we raised just over $70 million, which is an all-time high and a real testament to your belief in what we do. As a result, Mass Audubon had a tremendously strong year financially. Our results speak to both the historical financial strength of the organization and its focus on the most important conservation issues of our time. The financial support enabled you and thousands of others to experience nature firsthand at our sanctuaries. It allowed us to conserve additional high-priority lands. It allowed us to support a talented staff that welcomed visitors, educated students, and worked to steward our land. And it built a financial reserve that will ensure the financial sustainability of Mass Audubon and our critically important mission in the years to come. Let me share a few more highlights of fiscal year 2024. First, this year's operating revenues were $46 million, which is 11% above the prior year and 59% higher than the pre-pandemic revenues we had in fiscal year 2019. Three primary sources of revenue for Mass Audubon, gifts and grants, program income, and endowment income, all set best ever records in fiscal year 24. Thanks to all of you and others, receipts from contributions from our 160,000 members and thousands of donors totaled over $32 million. About $13 million supported our annual operating budget, and another $20 million was used to protect more land, strengthen our sanctuaries, and expand our staff in critical areas of the action agenda that Beth mentioned. We've also had considerable success in obtaining larger scale federal grants to support our work, grants that were frankly unimaginable several years ago. Our core mission-based programs that Beth alluded to, programs like camps, preschools, and K-12 school programs, thrived across the state and have really rebounded to the pre-pandemic levels we experienced. In fact, we enrolled more than 10,000 campers during the summer of 2024. Investment income from our endowment exceeded budget and was also at an all-time high, and realized bequests contribute to the health of our endowments. Finally, our membership revenues were close to their peak in fiscal year 2022. On the expense side, total expenses were lower than budgeted, largely due to challenges in filling some of our vacant positions. Very importantly, from the board's perspective, we continue to monitor and invest in staff compensation and our human resource capabilities to ensure that we retain the really talented staff we have and enhance our reputation as a highly desirable place to have a conservation career. Looking ahead, we will continue to make investments in nature that address our greatest challenges: the loss of biodiversity, inequitable access to nature, and climate change. We plan to be even more ambitious in our plan to protect nature and to ensure that you have an incredible experience at our sanctuaries and all our sites. And we will do it with the same thoughtful and prudent financial management that has been a hallmark of Mass Audubon for more than 128 years. Thank you for all that you do for Mass Audubon, for what you make possible, for the role you play in protecting the nature of Massachusetts. We couldn't do what we do without your tremendous support. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Is there a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Thank you. Is there a second? Excellent. I'm going to bring this to a vote. All those in favor, raise your paddles or complete the survey online. Any nays? All right, the ayes have it. Thank you very much. At this time, I would like to invite Annie Hollingsworth, Chair of our Board Nominating Committee, to provide us with the Nominating Committee report.
Thank you, Beth. On behalf of the Nominating Committee, which includes Beth Kresley-Goldstein, Andy Fallander, Tracy Bolotnick, and myself, I am pleased to present the Nominating Committee report. To begin, we are proposing a slate of 3 new directors. Our first candidate for director is Stuart Armstrong. Stuart is from Milton, Mass., and has been a member of Mass Audubon since 2012, and a member of our council since 2016. In addition to the council, Stuart has served on our development and sanctuaries committees for many years. He is an active birder, a keen advocate for our osprey, and spends much of his Mass Audubon time in our sanctuaries on the Cape and at Blue Hills Trailside. He is a loyal volunteer at the Wellfleet Bay Wildlife Sanctuary. Stuart holds a BS from Allegheny College. He is a financial planner with the Sentinel Financial Group, and his career in financial planning and personal wealth management will be a wonderful asset to our board. Shannon Cabot is our second candidate for the board. Shannon, who is from Ipswich, Mass., and has been a member of Mass Audubon since 2005 and a member of our council since 2022. Shannon spends the majority of her Mass Audubon time with our Ipswich River Wildlife Sanctuary. She too is a birder, in fact, a graduate of the Mass Audubon Birder Certificate Program. She's a climate champion, a volunteer at Drumlin Farm, and is also a member of the investment committee. Shannon holds a BA from Georgetown University and an MBA from Yale. She is president and chief compliance officer at the investment advisory firm Alta Rock Partners. Our third candidate is Dr. Jacob Hesterman. Jacob, from Newton, Mass., has been a member of Mass Audubon since 2009 and a member of our council for 2 years. Jacob and his family have engaged in dozens of Mass Audubon programs, camps, and other adventures, and spend much of their time at Drumlin Farm, though their adventures take them across the state to many of our sanctuaries. Jacob's love of nature took hold when he began birding at 11 years old. In turn, he developed a curiosity for optical imaging that has remained since. He has been an avid birder for life. Jacob holds a BS from the University of Rochester and a PhD from the University of Arizona. He is the Chief Data Officer for Ratio Therapeutics, where he is involved with medical imaging and data technology to advance therapies for cancer. Jacob is a strong advocate for Mass Audubon within his company, taking advantage of our Corporate Partners program to encourage employees to be out and active in nature. All 3 candidates are here tonight, so I hope you will have the opportunity to say hello. Next, we propose 6 current directors for renomination for a 3-year term. They are Joelle Barrera, Annie Hollingsworth, Linda Jones, Al Nierenberg, David Phelan, and Thomas Pounds. In addition to these board nominees, we also have recommendations for members for a 1-year term on the Audit Committee. They are Brian Hicks, James McGinnis, David Phelan, Peter Rosenblum, and Rob Ball ex officio. That concludes the nominating committee report. Thank you.
Thanks, Annie. Is there a motion to accept the slate of nominees for new directors, directors for renomination, and for the Audit Committee for Mass Audubon? Excellent. Is there a second? Perfect. Then I will bring this to a vote. All those in favor, please indicate with your paddle or do so on the poll online. Are there any nays? Excellent. The ayes have it. It is a vote. One last vote this year. I'd like to present changes to the bylaws for a vote, the Mass Audubon bylaws. For both of you here and in person, the proposed changes to the bylaws were shared with you in the information packet you received via email, and they were also posted online. About a year ago, a group of directors and Mass Audubon staff formed a bylaws task force. We felt that there was a need to modernize and streamline our bylaws and bring them into alignment both with current practices and just to check their alignment with the current statutes. The proposed changes went through many revisions and were carefully considered by the core task force, by Mass Audubon's council and several board members with legal background, and also the full board. The final proposed changes are outlined in a summary that was included in the meeting materials. I would like to see if there is a motion to accept the changes to the Mass Audubon bylaws. So moved. Is there a second? Excellent. Are there any questions before moving to the vote? Great. And I'm going to bring this to a vote, and I'm going to read the language of the vote, but you can also see it here. The vote says that as recommended by the Board of Directors of Massachusetts Audubon Society, Inc., Mass Audubon, the bylaws of Mass Audubon, as amended and restated on November 7th, 2014, be and hereby are further amended and restated by substituting, therefore, in their entirety, the amended and restated bylaws of Mass Audubon dated October 24th, 2024, and as described in the notice of the annual meeting of members of Mass Audubon and set forth on the website. All those in favor, please raise your paddles and vote. Online, sorry. Are any opposed? Any nays? Excellent. That is a vote. Thank you to both Rob and Annie, both for your work preparing for this meeting as well as the work that you do on behalf of Mass Audubon. This concludes the business meeting for the 28th annual meeting. And I would now like to tee up a terrific video that furthers our theme about the power of people.
There's no question, and I've said it before, that the power of nature is undeniable. It cleans our air and our water, provides endless opportunities for recreation, and it's a force for addressing climate change. Just as nature is powerful, so are people. People are the stewards of the nature we need. They stand up when we need to protect vital natural resources. They're the voice for wildlife, and they inspire and educate future generations to be stewards of the environment. I saw this power firsthand when a group of passionate townspeople voted to protect more than 1,300 acres of pristine forest land in central Massachusetts. They knew that cutting down prime forest was the wrong thing to do. They knew it would have major implications on the health of the region, and they knew it would have an impact on their way of life.
The towns of Winchendon and Ashburnham had a really challenging decision to make, whether to protect the 1,300 acres or to allow the land to be developed for solar energy. The findings of our growing solar report were really critical in supporting the decision that the towns had to make. That report showed us that you can both protect the lands of highest biodiversity and carbon and also place solar panels on parking lots, on rooftops, on other developed sites. We, with our partners, Mount Grace Land Conservation Trust, went to the towns and presented an alternative offer to protect the land and ultimately get it in the hands of the state. We were blown away by the enthusiasm and by the support of the people of the town of Winchendon, the town of Ashburnham, and they made these decisions in support of nature, of wildlife, of clean water, and of clean air. The Winchendon Forest Project was a terrific example of the Catalyst Fund in action. The Catalyst Fund is intended to leverage, to inspire, to accelerate, and to lift the activity of our partners, of communities, foundations, private individuals. Our goal is to raise $75 million to protect 30% of our lands and waters by 2030. This is the largest conservation endeavor that Mass Audubon has ever undertaken, not only for its own conservation goals, but for those of the entire state and for the broader conservation community.
One of the most exciting parts of being the president of Mass Audubon at this particular moment in time is to envision how we can use 160,000 members to be a strong advocate for the natural world.
Climate and Nature Champions is Mass Audubon's initiative to bring people together to be a voice for wildlife. Horseshoe crabs are just one example of wildlife that need advocates to champion for them. Between habitat loss, climate change, and overexploitation from fishing, horseshoe crab numbers are in decline, especially here in Massachusetts. Local conservation groups have been fighting for stricter spawning regulations for horseshoe crabs since 1998. I personally have been working on this for 15 years. Mass Audubon's campaign to restore horseshoe crabs got over 2,600 people to write public comments to the state. This far outweighed any number of comments that the state had ever gotten during any public comment period. And it wasn't until Mass Audubon's advocates got involved that we were finally able to get this regulation passed. Between their programming and education initiatives and the work that they do with local schools, Mass Audubon has introduced arguably thousands of individuals to horseshoe crabs and the importance of horseshoe crab conservation.
Mass Audubon's educational programs are critically important to meeting the challenges we have today and definitely to meet the challenges we will be facing in the future. We reach literally tens of thousands of young people each and every year through our camps, through our educational programs in the classrooms, through the programs that we run at our sanctuaries, and even online.
My partnership with Mass Audubon has changed my experience as a teacher tremendously. I'm learning new ways to teach my students science that is engaging and really meaningful. Science of Massachusetts is a 6 to 8 week program where a Mass Audubon educator comes into the classroom. Together, we teach our students about trees, climate, weather, and equity. We leave the classroom and we take students outside. We go on walks, we make observations. We're looking at the hot sidewalk, but more specifically how the sun affects the temperature of that. We're investigating the nature that's within our own schoolyard. My students never really considered that there's nature right here in the city. I think the partnership with Mass Audubon and taking our students outside has quite literally changed their lives. By teaching them about the science of Massachusetts, I'm hoping that they are generating this passion. They need that love and that connection to advocate for the natural world around them.
You know, I feel so very fortunate to be in this role because each and every day I get to see people who care deeply about nature, who take an action to protect nature, who teach someone else about the importance of the natural world. Whether it's volunteers combing the beaches to protect stranded sea turtles, or thousands of people signing up to be a horseshoe crab advocate. We see people on our trails helping us to build the next accessible trail in one of our sanctuaries. Our staff are working day in and day out to create a sense of belonging at our entire network of sanctuaries across the Commonwealth. And our board and council are driving us to be the most impactful organization we can be. And of course, our members and supporters who allow us to ramp up the pace of protecting resilient landscapes, providing equitable access to nature, and fighting the effects of climate change. We need nature, and nature needs us more than ever. We need you. Thank you for being a part of Mass Audubon. Cool. That's pretty cool. Those stories, like, it moves you. It moves me. I love it. The horseshoe crab work. How many of you were advocates for horseshoe crabs? Half of you, 3/4 of you. We'll get more of you because we've got a sign up out front for Climate and Nature Champions, right, Heather? So you're going to pull them all in. Let's sign up for Climate and Nature Champions. I've got a lot to talk about. We've done a lot of amazing things this year, and I'm excited to talk about it. And I want to first start by saying thank you. Thank you to all of you here in the room. Thank you to those of you that are at the watch party. How cool is that? We've got watch parties in Long Pasture and at Arcadia in East Hampton. And then we've got another bunch of folks who are online just watching as they're having a glass of wine and some dinner. We'll try to be entertaining to all of them through this presentation. I'm thrilled to be here tonight. I'm thrilled to be a part of this organization. I'm thrilled to see all of you here. And I'm going to run through sort of a litany of things that we've been doing this year that are having an impact on the natural world in the Commonwealth. I'd also argue are having an impact on how people are thinking about doing this work all across the country. So first of all, let me start with a few. This was triggered because I'm taking too long in my intro. So move on, O'Neill. So part of what I get to do is I get out once in a while, and I love that. It's like one of the best parts of my job. And here we're at Pinnakeys Island on the Elizabeth chain. And I'd never been out there before. And it was a trip with some governance members, many of whom are here, a couple of donors, and we got to learn about the natural history of this chain of islands. We got to learn about the migratory birds that rely on these islands. We got to see seals out in the water. I mean, it was an incredible day. Look how beautiful it was. We had so much fun, and then we went to Cuttyhunk, where we have our sanctuary or sanctuaries at Cuttyhunk. I see Gary Clayton here. He actually helped us protect the last parcel of land that we own on Cuttyhunk back in 2020. So thank you, Gary, for your leadership. This was an amazing trip. And I'll just say, this is part of our educational program. So if you haven't been to Cuttyhunk, you know, it takes a day. The day before I went, I was like, gosh, can I take a day to go out all day long to hang out? And then I did it, and I was like, how could I not have taken that day? So I encourage you to go ahead and get out and participate in a program. It's extraordinary. I also am really proud of the All Persons Trail Network that we're building across the Mass Audubon network of sanctuaries. This year, 3 more All Persons Trails, and we're really excited about, I think the number is now up to 18, 19. Liz Stetson is here. 18, excellent. Thank you, Liz, who's leading this effort for the organization. 18 on our way to get to 25 by 2026. We have another 2 that are coming along. You'll see them soon. One at Pawtucket Farm at our new sanctuary in Lowell, and then the other one is in Oak Knoll. Attleboro, yeah. And in Oak Knoll. So they're coming on board fall and winter. So we're really excited about the All Persons Trail. This one is at Cedar Pond. I need to give a shout out to our folks at Long Pasture. There was one that was built there, and then also at Brewster's Woods this past year. Boy, have you seen our sea turtle work? It's really, really cool. We have hundreds of people out scouring the beaches at the Cape to take these cold-stunned turtles out of the water or onto the beach. They cover them up with seaweed. They take them into our Wellfleet sanctuary. Sometimes they go over to the aquarium to be rehabilitated, and then we release them. Sometimes we release them on the other side of the Cape so they have free passage onto their trip down to the Gulf of Mexico. And sometimes they actually get into planes, and they're hauled down by plane down to the Gulf where they can survive and reproduce for their migration. So, you know, I'm here to, anybody know who I'm with? Yes, I'm with Senator Markey. Senator Markey actually put a little bill in and dedicated a little bit of funding for our sea turtle work. It benefited Mass Audubon, so we were able to cover some of the costs of doing this work. And he's got a piece of legislation in right now that would make that funding permanent. We're advocates for that work. And he's doing it with Strange Bedfellows. So he's got a number of co-sponsors on this bill from the Gulf states. So he's working with conservatives to try to pass this bill because it means so much to everyone. Nature means so much to everyone. And this was a lot of fun. We pulled that loggerhead out of that bin. It was about 90 pounds, both of us lifting it up. He, the whole time, had his eye on the cameras. I was so impressed as a politician who just... It was incredible. So a lot of fun there, and you know, I get to go out and lift up a loggerhead and put it in the water, but you can imagine all the work that our staff puts into this and all the work that our volunteers put into it. I just get to go out and take a picture with the senator. Next slide. This was fun. I was at our annual staff retreat, and we were up in Wildwood, which is beautiful, and we had a lot of fun there. And I think I saw Jennifer Feller walking in here. Jennifer Feller came up, and I think, who else was with Jennifer? It was Flavio. It was Flavio. And they came up with a basket of mushrooms. And I was like, you know, only at Mass Audubon would we, on our outings, have a time to go out and identify mushrooms, right? And they're all out having fun, picking the mushrooms and identifying the mushrooms. And I said, I know nothing about mushrooms. I know nothing about fungi. So I took a mycology class a few weeks later because I wanted to learn about it down at Wellfleet Bay Sanctuary. And I got out for, you know, several hours. I learned a ton about mushrooms, and I had a blast doing it all. But it just reminded me, and I did it sort of incognito. I didn't want anybody to know it was me. I just was like, okay, quietly doing this. Lo and behold, it was a leadership friends walk, which I was like, seriously? And so I had to do my job a little bit, but we had a really good time learning. I had a great time learning about this, and also just experiencing the incredible education programs that we run all across the Commonwealth each and every day. And then here, what a staff, what a team, what an amazing group of people I get to work with each and every day. This is Wildwood. We were not only doing, sort of mushroom identification, we're doing crafts, we're sharing stories, we're having a blast, but we also had a cardboard boat race at the end. And really creative team putting this event together. Most of those boats came back. There's a couple. Okay, sorry, Nia. All of them actually came back. That's just my joke. You blew it. No. So having a really, really good time doing really, really good work. And Beth said this in her remarks, but we have prioritized our sanctuaries. We talk about resilient landscapes and loss of biodiversity. We talk about inequitable access to nature. We talk about fighting climate change. And we've added a priority, and that's about nature and falling in love with nature, and that's all about the work at our sanctuaries. So we've lifted that up as an organization as a priority. It's part of our effort to raise resources for the organization, and we're going to continue to make strategic investments both in making the sanctuaries a place of belonging for everyone, but also maintaining that properties the way we need to so that everybody has wonderful experiences. This is Broadmoor, amazing trail system. MathWorks. Last year, I got to stand up here, and we had Jack Little, the CEO of MathWorks, with us, and we made this brilliant announcement about MathWorks giving us $25 million to protect land and to restore land, and it was phenomenal. And I'm really pleased that Craig Lazat of MathWorks is here with us tonight to represent all of that team and all of their wonderful contribution to the organization. Craig, I just want to thank you and MathWorks. I don't know if you'll recall, and you can speak. I don't know if you'll recall, but I mentioned a teaser. I was like, I wish I could tell you because we're working on this really important deal, 1,365 acres in this town, and we're really hopeful we're going to be able to acquire it. And the only way we'd be able to acquire it is because we had this MathWorks gift, and it was going to be $6.5 million, and we had to put that money down within 8 months. It was a rapid project. And lo and behold, as Jocelyn Forbush, our amazing Chief Conservation Officer, pointed out in the video, we did get this property. The town did support it. I was there at that town hall meeting. People were hanging from the rafters, all of them supporting nature. It was a moving experience, and we couldn't have done it without MathWorks, and we couldn't have done it without our amazing team and our incredible partners. So very, very exciting work. Is there a slide? And that work, the Winchendon Project, the MathWorks gift, this Catalyst Fund that Jocelyn talked about, it started to create a buzz. So people started reading about this project that we just protected, and the Catalyst Fund, and this idea of protecting 30% of nature by 2030. And we got this brilliant note from Peg and Phil Reed, and they read about the Winchendon Project, and they said, well, what can we do to help? And they turned around, they said, well, we're going to actually give $1 for every acre you protected. So they sent this note with a check, $1,365. It was so moving. We were like passing this note around. It meant so much. Yes, we got $25 million from Craig and MathWorks. That's brilliant. But every single dollar matters, and also just being able to touch people the way this program's touching people is amazing. Since this, we have received a $10,000 unsolicited donation, a $50,000 unsolicited donation, and last Friday we got a $100,000 unsolicited donation to our Catalyst Fund to continue to do this work. So it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Margot, what am I saying here? All right. This is a big announcement. And, so we were joking around. Kate, who does a brilliant job of this, she said to me, people were saying, well, what's your $25 million announcement this year, David? And we're like, you're not going to have a $25 million announcement every year, maybe every decade. And then, lo and behold, yesterday, we get word that the U.S. Department of Agriculture accepted our grant application for $25 million. Really? somebody asked me, like, did you just ask them not to tell you got the grant until yesterday? And I was like, no, I swear this actually happened. And it's unbelievably brilliant. And why did we get that $25 million gift? It's because we have a plan, a really good plan for protecting land, working with private landowners, figuring out what their needs are, but also what the needs are for carbon sequestration, biodiversity, and all of the things that matter. And these applications take forever, and they're really, really hard. And I'll tell you, this was the most competitive, we were told, the most competitive grant round ever for this grant program, ever, ever, ever. And we sort of tempered our expectations when we heard that, because we knew literally thousands of groups were applying for this money. Well, we were one of 92 that got this grant across the entire country, and we got the full amount. So we were one of only a handful of organizations to actually get the $25 million gift. So testament to our land team, David's here, Jocelyn for all her leadership on this, Tim who did all of this work on Victoria's team, and everybody who's helping us build this, this land conservation vision for the West to meet our goals for biodiversity, wildlife migration, and climate change. Very good. I'll just say as an aside, you know, Michelle Mannion is here somewhere, I know, our VP for advocacy. We had this, we were getting really close to this meeting where we say, wow, we got this $25 million announcement. The timing couldn't be any better. And then Michelle's texting me throughout the day saying, the climate bill that Michelle's been working on and Sam's been working on, that's based on her brilliant report on solar siting that we've talked about. This is really about how do you actually place solar in the land so you're not tearing down forests, but you're incentivizing it in the right places, among other things. We were like, is this going to pass today? Michelle's like, it's not going to pass. Oh, it looks like it's going to pass. No, it's not going to pass. It looks like it's going to. And so at the very end of the day, the Senate ended up passing it, which was a big hurdle. That's awesome. That's right. And then, well, we'll talk to the representative about this with her leadership and others. We hope to pass this on Monday. So a year and a half, unbelievable work, and it's a brilliant bill for us. So thank you all for if you wrote a letter, if you supported this work, if you participated in any of the programs, this is a big, huge win. We're just going to hold it for a couple of days, and hopefully we can celebrate together. I will tell you one other thing. You know, I was out at Plum Island what was it, Friday, Carol? It was Friday. I was out Friday with the Friday Birding group that Don Cooper helps to lead, who's honorary board director, and Dave Williams, who was an incredible birding guide and naturalist. And Carol comes up to me and she goes, what's going on with the bill? I think it was Carol. Carol came up to me and said, what's going on with this climate bill? And I said, well, you know, we're really hopeful. We're not sure exactly. And then she said, what about the wetlands restriction order? Did it get in that bill or not? I was like, whoa, how do you know this? Like, this is such an obscure little piece of the bill. I mean, it's meaningful and it's impactful, but Carol has been so involved and so dedicated to this work, and she understood how important that is to protecting our marshes, which leads us to the restoration work. So Carol and everyone who's been engaged in this work, we're thankful. Our ecological restoration team that we established a couple of years ago is really focusing on protecting and restoring marshes and wetlands, restoring urban habitats that are critical for biodiversity and for people, and also removing dams so the waterways can flow and we have these interconnected systems that function again from a biological perspective, where fish run again, so that we can see all of what nature brings. This is Norcross Tupper Hill Wildlife Sanctuary on the screen. We're working right now to connect 3,300 acres of land that hadn't been connected for over 100 years because these dams have been put up. We're going to remove those dams with our partners. We're going to have that stream run again, and we're going to reconnect that system back to nature. We have over 6,000 acres of work being done currently on our ecological restoration team. We made an investment, the board actually made an investment in building this ecological restoration team several years ago, and it's paying off. So unbelievable work. This is one of our ecological restoration team members, Carly, who's an engineer and is helping us drive all of this work. So to that team, fantastic. And then last year I mentioned we were talking with Melissa Hoffer, the chief for climate, about biodiversity. I said, I know you know something about biodiversity. You're a beekeeper, you have a farm that's organic, et cetera, et cetera. And she just did this wonderful talk about the importance of biodiversity. And we said we want to be the big advocate for the state to set nation best biodiversity targets for the country. And lo and behold, the state set out to do that. And we were hopeful to be able to announce those biodiversity targets now. It's not going to happen until the end of December, early January, but I know they're being crafted. Our team's working with the state agencies to make them best in the nation, and then we're going to work with them to help implement those plans. So very, very exciting around our efforts to protect biodiversity. And then, of course, we talk about all these really big things like biodiversity targets and climate change and 30 by 30, et cetera. We also have to do all of this really important work at our sanctuaries. And I'm very proud of our sanctuary team for what they're doing and what they're investing in. And very proud of the board for making serious investments in maintenance, deferred maintenance of these properties, right? This isn't sexy. This is not sexy. Deferred maintenance. Like, what does that mean? Well, it means we haven't actually been maintaining something, so it's deferred, and it gets worse. We have made a commitment to this. The board has made a commitment to this. It's almost tripling the investment that we made in deferred maintenance in the past. And I'll tell you, last year we had 68 projects that we completed on our sanctuaries, which is incredible. Like, that hasn't happened, and there's going to be 190 projects completed from 2023 through 2025, which is exponentially more than we've ever done before. So I just want to give a big shout out to our sanctuary team, our property managers who are doing so much of this work, our capital assets team led by Liz, everyone who's doing this. And that investment will help us make sure that we don't have bigger costs down the road. It's smart, it's thoughtful, and it's the way we should be doing business. And then, of course, our camp programs. Beth mentioned this, and I won't say too much about this except 10,000 campers. I mean, that's amazing. I don't know. I was at Moose Hill this year for the camp to watch the campers come in and orient and have this experience. The whole Moose Hill was full of all of these young people experiencing nature, and it was very cool to see. But 20% of those camper families were taking advantage of a scholarship program that we've committed to, we call our sliding scale. So 20% of the 10,000. Rob, you're head of our A&F committee, but I think that's 2,000 people, 2,000 young people, right? And 2,000 of our campers took advantage of sliding scale, this tuition program. Maybe these were families that might not otherwise be able to participate in our camp. So really proud of the investments that we're making there. And then for those of you who are going, when is David going to talk about birds? I love birds, and we're committed to our bird conservation programs, and we're working really hard on this work. And our bird conservation program just got a big boost with the appointment of Dr. Nathan Senner as our new Bertrand Chair of Ornithology, filling big shoes from Joan, right? But Dr. Nathan Senner is at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. He has a lab there that he's focused on thinking about how environmental conditions change and the impact that it has on organisms, and then how do we go about protecting the threatened species as change occurs in the environment. Nathan also is an expert on Hudsonian godwits. So he's traveled from the Arctic to South America. He understands where all they've gone. He found a colony of these in South Carolina. He's done incredible, incredible work. He's on PBS's Migration television show. You should watch him. He's incredible. He's become a young leading ornithologist for migratory birds in the globe. And he's going to help us develop our bird conservation strategy, where we're looking at the birds of Massachusetts, not only protecting what we need to protect here, but also thinking about the threats they face throughout their full life cycle. So he's going to be helping us map that, study it, and then take actions to protect these birds. And then this is obviously our Boston Nature Center, which is the second sanctuary I visited when I joined the organization during the pandemic. Young people running around, getting letters from parents saying, thank you for opening this up. I had nothing to do with it. Erin Kelly somewhere here. She's the mastermind of a lot of what is being done at the Boston Nature Center today. And and it's a special place. But I bring this up because I had this extraordinary Monday about 6 weeks ago, and if you already heard this story, forgive me, and I'll move through it pretty quickly. But 6 weeks ago, Monday, just a normal Monday, I wake up and I have to go to the Boston Nature Center. I don't have to. I love going to the Boston Nature Center. I swear, Aaron, I love it. And they were having the secretary for the Department of Energy and Environmental Affairs had asked us to host an event on the Coalition for Resilient Lands. And not only host it, but also be the co-chair of this group with the agency. And I was there, and the secretary was there, and we were talking about the importance of protecting landscapes, and there was a whole audience of partner groups that we work with all the time. And the secretary said to me on the side, you guys were the obvious choice to help us lead this coalition. The work that you're doing, so impactful, the humility you do this work with brings people together, and you were the obvious people to the organization to co-chair this work. So that was extraordinary. I kind of left that meeting fired up, and I went to a coffee with a donor, and I sat there with a donor. We were spending some time, and she said to me, "I love Mass Audubon, like so many of you love Mass Audubon." And she said, "I've been so impressed by the impact of the organization and what you're doing and what you're trying to do and the boldness of it and the vision of it. I love it." And at the end of the conversation, at the end of the cup of coffee, she said, I love the land protection work, and I love the work that's going on to create the new urban sanctuary in Lowell, Paul Tuckett Farm. And then she said, I'm going to give you $5 million to support both of those. It's extraordinary. And you walk away from those experiences, and you just realize, like, gosh, the generosity of people to give, the power of people to support our work. And it's not just about the money. It's not just about the money. It's about the support you give our staff by being there, by being, supportive, enthusiastic about the experiences you're having. It's about volunteering. It's about all the things Beth talked about. So that was pretty extraordinary. That's the middle of the day. The day's not over. So then I went to the Harvard School to listen to a lecture from a gentleman named Robert Bonney. And I've known Robert for quite a while. And I was fortunate to get the invitation from Rand Wentworth, who may be here, one of our board members, who's a professor at Kennedy School. And I listened to Robert talk about the importance of working with agriculture to help address our climate issues, and he's brilliant. He's fantastic. Afterwards, I chatted with Robert. We hadn't caught up in person for quite a while, and we were talking about this. And he said, I can't think of a better partner in Massachusetts to work with than Mass Audubon, given all of the work you're doing. And Robert is the Undersecretary for the Department of Agriculture, and he oversees that grant program that gave us $25 million. So he was serious, and his commitment to the work that we're doing was representative of what he knew of who we were and what we were doing. So what a day. That was pretty cool. It's like, Monday, check it off. Like, what's going to happen tomorrow? This is transition. Sorry. I'm driving Margot crazy. So I just want to say that this idea of the organization being able to have this local impact, this statewide impact, and actually be able to influence the way things are being done around the country is extraordinary. And I can't think of another organization at the state level that can do what we're doing right now. And I'm so proud of it. And the fact that we do it with humility and with a deep sense of caring for the mission is very, very special. And the power that we're building, with humility, the power that we're building is really having an effect on saving and protecting our natural world. And that's the trajectory we're on. That's the trajectory we're on together. And I hope you're inspired by it as much as I am. So let me pivot to a couple of anecdotes of people, because we did this before. We're talking about the power of people, and I want to talk about some folks too. This is Chris and Ellie. Chris and Ellie, father-daughter duo. They took the Naturalist Certificate program together, and they are regular And part of that program, they actually did an analysis of invasive species at Drumlin Farm. And on every Saturday morning, they're now leading or participating in an effort to remove the invasive species, but they're doing it with a lot of fun and enjoyment. They're bringing a whole bunch of other volunteers along. And this is just one of, 6,500 volunteers that we had last year. Katie, who runs our volunteer network, is here tonight. Amelia, for those of you out at Arcadia, maybe Amelia's there. I hope so, but she started as a preschooler at Arcadia. And then she went to the camp. And then she was a counselor in training. And she knew when she turned 18, she couldn't wait to be a counselor. And she became a counselor at Arcadia. And she said that I love this job because I can bring nature to these young people. I can walk in nature. I can share with them what nature is. And I know each and every one of them have a deeper appreciation for the natural world as a result of the work that I'm able to do at Mass Audubon as a camp counselor. So again, that's Amelia. Okay, where's Nicole? Nicole! Woo! Nicole is a member for Mass Audubon for 30 years and was one of the first people who signed up to be a nature and climate or climate and nature champion and took that job very, very seriously. She created the Save Newberry Wildlife Coalition. Is that fair to say, Nicole? Yeah, with my co-founders here. With the co-founders who are here. And they got to work really, really quickly. We have a rodenticides campaign. A lot of the communities are worried about rodenticides and how they're killing eagles and other raptors. And they did something about it. They petitioned the town to pass a law that would restrict rodenticides on public and private land completely. And the town adopted that resolution, and there are no more rodenticides used because of these ladies and others in Newberry. Congratulations. And I know, because I read about this, that you guys are hopeful that it's an inspiration for other towns and cities across Massachusetts. It can be done. We can get rid of rodenticides. And hopefully the state at some point will take up this measure and make it a statewide restriction. So thank you so much for all of your work. And then, of course, here's Amara. Amara, where are you? All right, Amara. Okay, so Amara's going to come up here and speak for a couple of minutes, but I just want to say that Amara was one of our inaugural environmental fellows. I remember her. I remember her joy and her energy, her spark when she came into a room with that first cohort that was all excited about this, and we were really excited about having an environmental fellows program, and we weren't sure exactly how it was all going to work, but we had brilliant leadership helping us drive this work and create this program out of just create it for the first time. And Amara worked in the Conservation Science Department, and I can tell you right now, she is leading our Boston Tree Alliance. That is a big deal. There's a lot of organizations involved in that. There's over, $2 million? So she's helping to guide $2 million of investments in environmental justice neighborhoods in the city of Boston to increase tree canopy. And she represents the type of leaders that are all emerging from this program. And I see many of them here in the second row. These are past and present environmental fellows. And I can't thank you enough for being a part of our programming and making our organization better as a result of your participation. So thank you guys very, very much. So with that, I'm honored. I'm honored to invite Amara up to the stage. Amara.
Oh gosh, where are my things? Thank you so much, David, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. So in 2022, I was selected for the first cohort of environmental fellows. We each arrived at the fellowship from different paths. Some of us were educators, some of us were advocates, some of us knew a lot about ants. And I'm not going to say who the ant nerd was, but I will say that my favorite species, Myrmecocystus mimicus, or the honeypot ant, is a species of ant whose workers can actually store nectar in their abdomens and regurgitate that nectar for the colony when food is scarce. So anyways, some of us knew ants, but we each had a desire to share our passion for nature and the environment, and through our careers address climate change through science, education, policy, and so much more. And since then, 2 more cohorts of incredible fellows have followed. You might hear us referred to collectively as the fellows, but I just did want to take a moment to say each fellow's name. They're my friends and my colleagues, many of whom are here tonight. So we've got Isa, Bella, Anna C., and Jovan, part of my cohort. In the year 2 cohort, we had Mina, Priya, Anna H., Taylor, Fauna, and Bobby. And in our current cohort, we've got Zuzu, Emily, Nico, Izzy, and Abby. So thanks y'all so much for being my friends. And I just want to highlight it's so crucial that the important work of our Deja department and our early career programs, with the incredible leadership of Nia Keith and Aisha Farley, continues to be supported, not only to lower barriers to entry into the environmental field, but to ensure that fellows continue to be heard, to be celebrated, to be promoted for years to come. So I just wanted to say that as well. As a fellow in conservation science, I am so grateful to have had so many amazing experiences that continue to shape my love for nature. From nesting birds on coastal islands like Kettle Island to salt marsh vegetation like Allen's Pond, amphibian monitoring and database and project management, and so much more. I was also supported by the amazing community at the Boston Nature Center, where I was able to explore how people in cities interact with nature and how these interactions are so vital in a world where urban environments are experiencing some of the worst impacts of climate change. So last year, Mass Audubon was awarded a grant to begin an urban forestry program in collaboration with the city of Boston. So shout out Mayor Wu up there. And I was thrilled to join the team as the coordinator for the Boston Tree Alliance. So in 2022, Boston's urban forest plan found that 60% of Boston's urban forest is actually located on privately owned lands. So while you might think of public street trees, park trees, actually most of the urban forest is on residential yards, cemeteries, churches, and commercial properties. And the data actually shows that canopy is being lost on these lands. So the Boston Tree Alliance provides funding, technical assistance, and education to community-based organizations to plant and care for trees on private land in partnership with Boston residents. Central to the program is tree equity, ensuring that the benefits of trees are equitably distributed across Boston's neighborhoods, and prioritizing areas with high heat islands, low tree canopy, and environmental justice communities. Boston's urban forest can provide us with nature-based solutions to address climate change and have profound ecological and public health impacts. But planting just one tree is complex. If you've ever done this, more power to you. Finding a nursery, ensuring that you have healthy stock, picking the right tree for the right place, digging and properly placing the root ball in the soil, watering, mulching, pruning. There are so many steps to set a tree up for success in its new home. So this past year, we distributed $116,000 to 5 incredible organizations to plant and care for trees on private land. From a food forest to affordable housing developments to residential yards and walking paths, in 2024, these organizations are planting over 170 trees across the city, and we're excited that additional funding will allow the Alliance to expand in the years ahead. I've learned a few things over the past year in my new role. Number 1, tree people love to talk, okay? And some of you are here tonight, I know that. They want to talk about their favorite species, how the leaves turn the most beautiful color, and they want to tell you to please stop letting your dog pee on newly planted trees. Number 2, we must approach the conversation of tree equity with care and curiosity through community engagement. Trees have many benefits, yes, but they also create challenges. We must listen when residents tell us that they need help with pruning and maintaining their existing trees, raking leaves, and dealing with storm damage. How can we address those concerns as well? And number 3, it really is the power of people. The Boston Tree Alliance could not exist without those who care deeply about their communities and the people and the trees within them. We rely on staff, residents, neighbors, arborists, community members, and so many others who come together to effect change. I'm grateful to be connected to wonderful communities of people through the Boston Tree Alliance, the Environmental Fellows Program, and Mass Audubon. Our collective power is creating change and growing trees with deep roots for future generations. Thank you all for being a part of it. I am now honored to be able to introduce the next part of our program. Joan Moschino was elected state representative for the 3rd Plymouth District in 2016, and she, like all of us, cares deeply about the nature of Massachusetts. Representing the coastal communities of Hull, Hingham, and Cohasset, Representative Moschino understands that action is imperative and is a leading champion on Beacon Hill in the fight against climate change. She also knows that our success weighs on addressing climate impacts both as individuals and as communities working together. Please welcome Representative Moschino.
Wow, that was the nicest introduction I've ever gotten. Thank you so much, Mara, and congratulations on all your fantastic work. It's pretty impressive, and I love that there's a cadre of fellows out there to do the next generation of work. This is really fantastic.
Thank you, Joan. That was great to have you here. We're excited to talk about your leadership and the work you're doing on climate. And but first, we have to talk about today. Right? We just absolutely have to talk about today.
Oh, what the Senate did and the House hasn't? Okay.
Okay, so, right.
We can talk about that. Okay. Sure, go ahead.
All right. So why didn't the House, no, I'm kidding. Can you tell us a little bit about this afternoon and how the House is planning to take up the climate bill? And when do you think that might happen? And what do you think the prospects are of its passage?
Oh, I just want to reassure everyone, it will happen. So it's legislature, and we have rules, and we regularly suspend the rules and do whatever we please. And if you watched, sort of, 6,000 bills get filed, and it all sort of careens down towards and funnels down towards end of session. And what was interesting this year about end of session was there were actually a tremendous amount of bills that got passed on the House and the Senate side, and it's really the reconciliation process. That's what was going on. I think the way I heard it, I heard a lot of things, because when you're doing the reconciliation process, sort of what happens in the room stays in the room. But what was clear to me is that both the House and the Senate have a deep commitment to climate. And it's sometimes the devil's in the details. And so that was what's been happening. When they sort of stepped apart at the end of session, at the end of formal session, both chambers had good bills. And I think what you saw come together was actually in that climate report, the conference report, if you actually had a chance to look at it. And for those of you who are lay people, don't read through the whole bill. Look at, it's the Rule 11, it's the Joint Rule 11, and it tells you all the sections that are in there and the sections that are not in there. So you can read through it as a quick cheat sheet. But that's what happened, is they stepped apart and then they came back together to really work it out. So the Senate did it today. The minority party, the Republicans, had some questions, fair enough, and they worked that out and took the vote today. What that means is that the House will probably take it up soon, and I think they're eager to do it next week. So we'll see what the Republicans do on the House side. But remember, both of these bills passed both of these chambers overwhelmingly, so we will absolutely get this done. Just a question of when.
That's all.
Woo!
It's awesome. It's so true, though. Massachusetts is an absolute leader in climate policy.
Yes,
a
absolutely.
national leader in climate policy, and it continues to really look at all emission sectors and how we're going to address these concerns. Also, how do we streamline systems so that we can get more clean energy on the ground, but do it in a smart way that protects wildlife. You came to us, joined us, the board and the council, at a Beacon Hill event that we had last spring.
Yes.
And I know I was pretty moved by the comments that you made there. And you were talking about what is the next sector that should get time and attention by the legislature. And I know you were one of the architects of the 2021 roadmap law.
Yes.
Which it was the key piece of legislation that pushes all of this forward. And I know your voice carries a great deal of influence. So can you tell us a little bit about what you think this next emission sector should be and what you have in store for legislation potentially in the future?
Well, it's interesting. So the 2050 roadmap was the bill that moved. And with it, it was the cornerstone of that next generation climate policy for Massachusetts that was passed in 21. And it was an elegant bill, actually, what everything that came forward with it. And what it did was it set this statewide framework. But now we have to do the work. One of the things that was missing, though, from that roadmap bill, and I own it, I still remember it was the Nature Conservancy came to me and said, so we love your roadmap bill, but would you be open to a friendly amendment? I was like, sure, what are we talking about? And he's like, nature-based solutions. I was like, oh. Yeah. It's that moment you have bill envy, and you really think about, like, oh my God, why didn't someone tell me this about, I shop this bill to everyone. But that was really the piece. And so it came as a friendly amendment, but because it wasn't written as part of the underlying bill, I have some real concerns about whether it's enforceable, how enforceable it will be taken, how widespread. So this summer we did had a fellow from the Salata Institute at Harvard to do a gap analysis and really kind of take a look. There's been a lot coming out of the Healy administration, and Chief Hoffer's amazing, and I hope you all have taken a look at her report because it really lays it out in a very digestible way as to sort of where they're headed, what we need to do, and how we get to net zero by 2050. But I have some real concerns about gaps and barriers around nature-based solutions. So that's what we're going to do is we're going to file a bill. We're working on it right now, and I do believe, Jane's over here, tell me if I'm wrong, isn't Michelle Mannion coming to talk to me soon, I think?
Oh, good.
Yes, because we care about what the Audubon Society of Massachusetts thinks. And we value you as partners. But really, it's meant to be, it's really meant to be universal. It's meant to be enforceable. It's meant to be, expansive. That's what I'd like to see us do, something more expansive, because that's going to be a crucial piece around sequestration. And there's so many co-benefits right now with the biodiversity and the sustainability. And right now, I think the administration's doing things in fits and starts. So like, hopefully you've all seen the Resilient Coast piece, but it really should be statewide. And I feel like the first thing is really prioritizing protection, making sure we conserve what we have now, and then make it easier to restore the things that are around us. And it should just be part of the conversation, no matter what we're talking about. If we're doing school building, right? And you're spending all that money on a high school, you should be talking about what are the nature-based solutions that are in that project
Completely
as well.
agree.
So so that's what we're going to do.
Right.
Are you committing to help me?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That is right. Well, I mean, it's interesting. I love everything you just said. I mean that. So I imagine that we will, and I hope we can get our nature and climate champions out and in force for something along these lines. And there is no binding targets for nature-based solutions in legislation, right? And there's all this debate about, nature can only absorb so much carbon, and so and we're not sure because there's storms, there's all these pests, etc., that could affect, nature, and therefore it's in flux. Well, it's always in flux in everything we do. Right. There's no certainty in it. So, our hope is we set bold targets for nature, right, and how we can have nature be a bigger part of the solution for meeting our climate objectives. So,
and I think it's land and water too.
Completely land and water.
Yeah, just saying.
These, the dam removal project, for instance. I mean, there's benefits and co-benefits to that work.
Oh, I love that project. Yeah. So those we work. Actually, that's an amendment that I file all the time for DER. Mm-hmm. So I think we got them up to over $4 million in their operational budget. So now they really have the people to do all of the work. And let's think ahead, because I know one of the questions you're going to ask me is about funding. And there's a big environmental bond bill that rumor has it that EEA and all of the secretary is working on. So let's hope that there's some money in there for things like that.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And DER's work is brilliant.
Yes.
We're so happy to be working with them, and so happy that they're up and over $4 million. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a couple of projects where a little bit of a hand by people
it
can
unpacks
change
it, right? It's like this small little bit that comes from the state, and it just it unlocks all the potential. Yeah.
This is Tidmarsh, perfect example on the screen where, this was a 470-acre, where Gloriana and Evan, I think, are here, right? Gloriana and Evan are awesome. They were our partners. This was their land, and we restored this. And as one of our staff members says, Alex, at one point there was only one species of plant on this property, and now there are over 700, and that would have been the cranberry. So it's incredible transformation, and DER is critical to that work.
Yep.
So let's talk about funding.
Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, honestly, so rumor has it, and and I think Secretary has been clear that they've been working on an environmental bond bill, and the last one I think would have come out in 2017, 2018 under the Baker administration. So it's expired, so their time. And these are on some very basic level. It's about things like Green Communities Act. It's about MVP programs, DER. So that's what will fund a lot of these kinds of investments that we're making in our environment. So a lot of us are very looking forward to what's coming out, and I will be sending in a letter soon to talk about some of the things that drought management is one of the things that we're hoping will be in there. So I think this is going to be a real opportunity to say what the priorities are. And let's be honest, where you spend your money is what your priority actually is. I don't care what bills you file, where you spend, that's it. So it's very worthy of your attention, and they seem to be very open to listening to what we have to say. So I'm hopefully, I'm sure that you're already weighing in with Secretary and with Chief Hoffer around what these things are, but that's going to be the first opportunity for some real transformational spending in this space.
So everybody keep your eye out for emails and information around the environmental bond, because I think we're going to be very, very active in that space to try to drive resources to these solutions. And we had our growing solar protecting nature campaign, which is leading to this hopefully will be passage of the climate bill. And the next big campaign that we've been talking about is a campaign, Massachusetts Campaign for Nature.
Oh, I love it.
And the idea is to drive dedicated funding. We're interested in your ideas and thoughts on this. We're talking about having a dedicated source of funding that could be used for land protection management with a really strong equity lens applied to it, so money's also flowing to environmental justice communities and bringing an indigenous component to the project. But $100 million a year set out to do this work in perpetuity. 28 other states already have such a dedicated funding source.
Yeah,
we'd love for this to be part of your bill if it doesn't make it through some of these other mechanisms that we're pushing.
Well, and I think you do it both ways. We've had some real success around seeing if you can't get it in through the environmental bond bill first. This administration has really shown a proclivity for putting policy in there Baker administration, he didn't like to do that. He was like, this is a spending bill. You do your policy bills. But Healy administration seems to be pretty open to it. So I say file a bill and try to get it on the front end, because then it's all working towards the same thing. And really, I think one of the opportunities that we have right now is to unlock so that public-private partnership as well. For the first time ever now, we really have the ability to think about things like the social cost of carbon, right? And now when you're talking about the cost, but then also market-based solutions and the costs of a ton of carbon. And so how we develop, the financial models to assess these things, and to, on the one hand, it gives you a real opportunity to say, if we don't have this sequestered, or we don't reduce these emissions, this is what we're going to be spending on this side of the equation. So if I don't get the school bus to be electric, and I'm standing there with my child getting their twice daily dose of particulate pollution, I'm going to end up in the emergency room with asthma. So you're spending money no matter where you are. So it's really about thinking about what are our opportunities to drive policy, to avoid the one type of spending. But then on the other hand, now as we're talking about those costs, if you're Microsoft and you're looking for offsets, it's your opportunity to be investing in these projects and how you calculate that. So it's a very interesting time to really be thinking about what our opportunities are for those public-private partnerships and how you unlock that potential. Because we won't have it forever. So we really need to see if we can't entice those or force those investments. Oh, listen, we've got to make, these are enforceable targets. That's one of the reasons I'm focused on nature-based solutions and natural and working lands and waters, because I'm worried it's not as enforceable. And that's what we really need to do right now.
We definitely need to do that. And I just, the social cost of carbon concept can be, it may not be so clear to folks, but in Massachusetts, I'm so impressed, not being from here, but the voter constituency is pretty aware of these issues, and like this idea of social cost of carbon and doing what's right up front, so you don't have to, sort of our deferred maintenance example here, like let's make some investments now so we don't have to make bigger investments in the future. I think people can get that. I want to come back to our theme with our last two questions, and that's the power of people. You represent 40,000 people in your district, and you see people using their voice to influence you and others.
I heard all about the crabs.
Horseshoe crabs.
Horseshoe crabs, yes.
I love that. And how do you have an example or of a constituent or constituents who have come to you that really made a difference in how you were thinking about an issue, and changed your mind, and it led to some really good outcome?
So I'll just say, when I ran in 2016, I actually ran on climate change, which when you step forward these roles and you go see the pundits, they're like, oh yeah, she's not going to win. That doesn't poll. That's not a winning issue. And I was like, you asked me what the number one issue facing my district is, and it's climate change, sea level rise, intense coastal storms. Everyone in my district understood it, and I ran on that issue because that was what people were talking about, and that was the struggle. I was a selectman for a long time, and I happen to have a great friend, Laura Burns, in Hingham. Oh, and Hingham's in the house here somewhere. And we used to talk about this all the time. And so when I went to her and I said, I want to run, and this is what I'm thinking, that was what we talked about. And it was incredibly well received. My district is open ocean. This is a district that is very much, there's a lot of conservation, although I don't think there's any Audubon. I'm just going to say, I have.
We looked into it beforehand. I was so disappointed.
I have DCR, state parks, the Harbor Islands, Nantasket Beach, Wampatuck.
They're
I have trustees. I'm just saying. It's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity. But it was very much present, and it was brought to me. And so when I brought it back, it was very well received. And I'll tell you, my district is a great example of all the different ways you can do it. I mean, I have municipal light plans. and they're going for net zero in Hingham. I have, 350 is there all the time, and so they're doing 100% renewable in Hull, and even Cohasset did community aggregation. These are communities that are actually thinking about it, and they're bringing it into their schools. They're have town meeting committees. It's really exciting. It's actually very exciting.
I mean, it's pretty thrilling to think about, having climate as the #1 campaign topic for candidates, and I mean, it's really that important to so many people, and it's not just going to be the coast, right? We're seeing these flooding events occurring in communities and towns all over, and it's just becoming real. It's not this existential threat. It exists today, and we have to do what we can about it.
People see it. When I first ran, everyone's like, well, there's a coastal issue. And then, it's like you're having flash flooding in Leominster and sheer winds in the Berkshire. I think everyone sees it now. And it's very integrated. And I think to your point about the funding, one of the biggest things we can do is fund municipalities. That's where most people intersect with government, and that's where most of this work's going to happen on the ground, which is why your grassroots organization is so tremendous.
Well, that's our last question. Like, help us help address the climate issue and protect nature. What can this audience do? The folks that are watching, our members. What can we do to help move a bill like yours forward?
Oh, this is great. So first of all, you are very ably represented on Beacon Hill, and I've known Sam for the whole time I've been in, and I've just met Michelle, and so you are very well respected, and you should just know that as members that your team is doing a great job already.
That's Sam Anderson, our Legislative Affairs Director,
yes,
and Michelle Mannion, our VP for Policy and Advocacy.
But then, as individuals, you all live somewhere. So you should all have a relationship with your state rep and your state senator, both. And I don't care if you're a Republican and they're Democrats, or you're a Democrat and they're Republicans. They want to know you, and you should have a relationship with them, because when you come forward with something like, the horseshoe crabs, you want to be able to text me or pick up the phone, or Jane Fulton's here with me. She's my aide. Have a good relationship with the aides, the staff. I forget things. I had to write it down to remember. But our staff, at the end of the day, when I say what happened today, and how did things go, what do I need to know, she's deciding on what to tell me. So staff and the rep and the senator, and you want to have that relationship, so when something important comes up, you can ping me and you can get time with me, and you can swing through my office hours. Those relationships are key, and quite frankly, I know Beacon Hill seems like a mystery to most people, but it is the relationships that matter, and that's how you get things done. Trusted sources of information, and that relationship is so that when someone comes to me and says, here we are, Joan, I know to take them seriously, and I know and respect Audubon. So you have the power of that behind you, and quite frankly, I think partnering also with other like-minded organizations. We got roadmap passed based in the first session it was filed, because we had pulled together with CLF, Conservation Law Foundation, had pulled together like 25 organizations, of which you're part, and advocated for it, and we just went door to door. And so really, you already know what to do, and you already have demonstrated that you can do it great. So keep it up.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you so much. I'd say that we do all of this policy work in coalition with our partners. It's so important, and so makes us so much more impactful, and we lean on each other's strengths pretty well. But I think the message of not demystifying the experience of meeting with your legislator, doing that kind of work, spending time building relationships and helping us move the agenda forward. And if I could just give one plug, keep an eye out for our campaign for Nature of Massachusetts. It is the next big push that we're going to be driving, and it sounds like we're going to be doing that in partnership with Joan. And we're excited by that.
Executive decision, I love it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here.
This is really great.
Great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Rep. Meskina. We really appreciate your partnership with Mass Audubon, your words tonight, and most importantly, your leadership at the State House. In closing, I hope that each of you come away from tonight inspired to act or keep acting behind the work of Mass Audubon. It's really critical. If you need to learn more about how to get engaged, one person you can talk to afterwards is Katie LaScalia. Sorry, Katie, if I butchered that. Our statewide volunteer coordinator. Or you can reach out to Heather Packard, who's here tonight, who's the leader of our Climate and Nature Champions program. I note that, when people think about becoming involved in advocacy, that can feel daunting and maybe can feel like it's not something you're comfortable with, myself included. But the Climate and Nature Advocacy program that Champions really helps you figure out how to do that. It helps teach you about the issues that you need to know about and helps you think about the role that you can best play. So it's a really important factor as we move forward that we all think about how we come together, not just to do our individual volunteer work, but really to work as one voice behind the issues that we care about. And I think that is what Rep. Moschino has shared with us tonight. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. I think this concludes our program for the night. I appreciate all those who joined us online, and for those of you who are here with us at WGBH, please join us outside for a reception and lots of conversation. Have a great night.